Stop that. I hear him chat to the noise, move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys, man so tough, but mans keep walking.
Welcome to Cancel Me Now. Gary Jubelin. How you doing?
Very good, Isaac. Thanks for having me on.
Welcome to the studio here. Now, for regular listeners, Bluey is not here. He is building scaffold somewhere. It's one of these very few and far between dry days here in Newcastle. So he's building scaff out there with all the Kiwis. So that's good.
Shout out to Bluey.
Good on you, Blue. Enjoy yourself, mate.
Where would we be without scaffolders?
I know. Well, hey, the unsung heroes. And,
exactly.
And if you don't know Gary Jubelin, Australia's most decorated detective, perhaps.
I don't know about decorated. Infamous.
Do they get decorated?
You get decorations, but I've never been a big one for the decorations.
Well, in my eyes, you're the most decorated.
I got runner up for the Policeman of the Year award one time.
That's good.
But there had never been a runner up before. You're either the Policeman of the Year or not Policeman of the Year. And I got a call from a senior police officer and said, congratulations. And I didn't even know about the award. He said, you're runner up to Policeman of the Year. And I've gone, oh, that's good. Well, thank you. And who won? And he was a little bit hesitant to say that. And he just, some young bloke, blah, blah, blah. And I was a detective at that stage working a lot of major crime. And it was a person that worked for the transit police who had given out a lot of tickets.
The person from the transit police won over a detective.
Yeah, and look, I'm not diminishing.
No, I think you should. I think you should diminish the transit police.
No. Everyone plays an important role, but it was a bizarre.
You're like Bluey with the scaffold.
He could be the scaffolder of the year.
Maybe
scaffolder of the year. But it was a strange situation. So I rang someone, higher up, and said, what's the go with the runner-up? Because you can't be sort of the second best. It's either the police officer of the year. There is no runner-up. There never has been a runner-up or whatever. And I don't know, it just got lost in the history of the New South Wales Police, and it's still to this day, I didn't know why I got runner-up, and there's never been a runner-up policeman of the year since, and there wasn't one before. I got a little TV.
You got a telly?
Yeah.
Nice.
Because on principle, I wasn't going to accept the prize, and they said, "Oh, it's a nice TV." I said, "Okay."
Well, the New South Wales Police, great organisation. They've done well. On the topic of crime, I wanted to show you this. This is a very special clock that I bought, not just for you. I bought it just because I'm a weird person. I like buying interesting things, and it's not a gift either. I'm keeping this. But I thought you might want to just have a look at it and get what type of feelings do you get from this particular clock? Well,
I'm just checking about the fingerprints because I've got the fingerprints all over it now. But Chappelle.
What do you think when you hear the name Chappelle?
I'm thinking of boogie board.
You are correct.
I'm thinking
this was made by Australia's biggest ever drug smuggler, Chappelle Corby.
Wow. Was it gift wrapped? Was it wrapped in the...
It was not wrapped. Oh, no, it was wrapped. It was sent in a very nice box. She wrote some nice little words on the back.
Oh, well, that's nice.
Isn't that cool? Yeah. So that's where she's doing. That's what she's doing now.
No, well, good luck to her. Like, whatever happened, whatever, people's views on it, she went through a rough time. And I don't, spending time in the prison like she did, it would have been a tough...
in a Balinese prison, as a young person, I think she would only have been in her early 20s, wouldn't she?
Yeah, and the attention on her as well. Like, I'm not judging on what she was convicted of or the nature of the offence, but she's paid a price, so hopefully life's good for her. I didn't bring a gift, but you meant to?
No, this is not a gift for you. This is not a gift. I'm not giving it to you.
No, but Chappelle bought the gift.
No, she hasn't been on the show. I bought this. Right. It was $200.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. All right. I've got it.
You can take it if you want, but I will buy a new one.
Need a new watch. No, that's very good. Very good.
Now, you cancelled on me last week.
Yes.
You had COVID again.
Yeah, I'm 10 days clean.
Nice, very good. You're getting it out of your system.
It was funny getting COVID at this stage because it was such a yesterday's sort of...
No one cares.
No one cares. It's
been done.
Like if you had COVID 2 years ago, everyone's going, Isaac, he's got COVID. Oh. And I'd be telling people I've got COVID and they go, oh, yeah. What else is going on?
Yeah. We had this conversation, Claire and I, yesterday of the time we were out the front, like for a couple of weeks there, talking to our neighbours, but with like a 10 metres distance in between each other because we didn't want to get arrested or fined or whatever.
Oh, it was strange.
It's changed.
Yeah.
How was it for you? It was fine?
I was crook for a couple of days, but if it didn't have the word COVID attached to it, I would have thought I had man cold,
Yeah.
and I probably would have bounced back. But it's okay. I know it affects everyone differently, but I feel all right. It made me slow down and lock myself away for a week, so that was pretty good.
Well, I was talking to a friend of mine who he's not vaccinated, and he travels to America, or did travel to America quite a bit for work, and he is still unable to travel.
Yep.
Even though I've only had 2 jabs, the last one being in probably September last year or thereabouts, and they say that the vaccination only lasts 6 months.
Yeah.
I would imagine that I am completely unprotected by those means, and yet he still can't travel because he hasn't had something 12 months ago.
Yeah,
it's very strange.
It is strange. I travel overseas since COVID. I went to the Maldives, and we were worried whether you're going to get through this checkpoint or that checkpoint, but it seemed fairly relaxed. You wear the mask on the plane and different things, but I hope we're over the worst of it, and
sure.
That's what the so-called experts are saying, that we've hit the peak. So
I caught the flu this year. It was horrible. I thought I was going to die. It was so bad.
Look, I can sympathise.
Mate,
man flu is worse.
It's terrible. I was like, we had to get to the airport. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to make this. This is awful, but I lived.
Well, I haven't been as sick as I've been in the last 12 months, and I wonder if it's because we live such a sterile existence in the COVID, wash your hands and not coming into contact. But before I went over the Maldives, the day before, I got sick, and I was on an island, and if you had a temperature, you get put into isolation and that. So there was a couple of days I was walking around with my. I went over there with a group of mates and doing a bit of surfing, and I was walking around like Weekend at Bernie's because we had to pretend I was all right because we didn't
just smile on your face.
Yeah, no, I'm fine because we didn't want anyone to know I was sick. But
well, you don't want to be in another country that's sort of still freaking out about that.
Yeah.
Well, when COVID first hit, I remember we spoke on the phone, and you had been in lockdown in your apartment for 6 months or something. You couldn't get out. It was like a prison.
Bouncing off the walls. I think I said to you back then, I realised how boring I actually was.
Yeah.
Like living with myself. What are we doing today, Gary? I'm not sure.
Did you get a lot of work done then? Because you are releasing a new book. It comes out in September, is that correct?
Yeah.
So Badness.
Badness, that's correct. It sort of forces you to do work, but you also fall into the trap, I think, that, well, if I don't do it today, I can do it tomorrow because every day blends into it. But no, I've finished the book. It's at the printers now, and I co-wrote it with Dan Box, who's based over in London. So there was a lot of late night calls and toing and froing. But after I finished the first book, I said I'd never do it again. And after I finished the second book, I'll never do it again.
Right.
It's I enjoy it. It's cathartic, like putting everything down. This book's a little bit different because it's not my first one, I Catch Killers, was a memoir. So that's sort of the story wrote itself. This one's a continuation of my journey since I left the cops. So it's now been 3 years, or a bit over 3 years, I think, and what I've discovered since then. So speaking to not just the people I have on the podcast that I do, like other cops, but speaking to some of the ex-crooks or current crooks, and just getting a real insight into what causes them to go into a life of crime. And I found it quite interesting. But the really, what I think, and it's the thing that rocks my boat at the moment, is how people are fighting crime in different ways, not from a policing point of view, but people are doing, like one, Ken Marslew, whose son was killed in an armed robbery. He's got this program called Enough is Enough, and it's about reducing violence. Voices Survivor, Russell Manser, an armed robber, escapee, all sorts of things, spent 23 years in jail. He was sexually assaulted when he was a kid in an institution, and that, he's not blaming everything for his life, but that set him on a path that, just led to spending so much time in jail. And then there's another fella, Shane Phillips, an Aboriginal man at Redfern, and he does boxing, tribal warrior, and clean slate program where he gets the Indigenous kids out boxing in the morning and different things like that. And it's made me think, here I was thinking I'm the hard-ass crime fighter all those years in the cops, and really when it's all said and done, the difference these people are making doing programs like that is bigger than what I ever achieved in police. So I'm really finding that interesting. It's just changed my view. I'm looking at life a little bit differently, not through a cop's eyes. So yeah.
So what can people take away from this book, do you think? What is your goal from it?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because when it was put to us about doing it, or put to me about doing a second book, and I spoke to Dan about it, and we could put my name on it, and we could there and just sort of sell out, and nothing proud of, because you got to do the tour, the book tour, and talk about the book. But this, I think, has really given. We're trying to understand badness. What causes badness? Yeah, we delve into some of the big crimes. Anita Cobby. An unsolved murder that I did when I was in the police, where a young girl was murdered, 13-year-old girl, and different things like that. And we're looking at, okay, what causes these crimes? Looking at Martin Bryant, we spoke to the crime scene officer that was down there, and looking at the carnage that occurred down there. And then Tim Watson Munro, who the Hoddle Street massacre. Tim Watson Munro didn't do the Hoddle Street massacre. That was Julian Knight. Tim Watson Munro is a criminal psychologist, and he was working with Julian Knight. And it's interesting, you see that tipping point where people, it's almost like you look at it, and when you look back, it's almost like it's inevitable. So that's sort of the journey that the book covers. This is a long answer to a short question. But then I'm looking at the other people that are fighting crime, victims, and how they've been touched by crime, and just different ways, what happens in prison. I became really good friends with an interesting character, and sadly he's passed away. That's Bernie Matthews. And Bernie Matthews was one of the hardest prisoners in New South Wales. He was, he had a book came out, Mr. Intractable, because he was put up in Grafton, where some horrendous things happened to them. And I'm not excusing the crimes that Bernie committed, but I became good friends with him, and before he passed away. And his childhood and the brutality that he suffered in the prisons at Grafton, where they'd get bashed when they came in. And this is not talking out of school. This is all public record. And you can almost look at it and think, okay, why did this person go that bad? And then he was talking about all the other people he served time with. And, Bernie he was the longest serving prisoner in Katingal, which was a supermax. And, he went through some tough times. And, he would be hard to handle. At one point, he tried to kill a corrective services officer by biting his neck.
Shit.
Yeah, that's how violent he could be. But when you break it down, he was a really smart person. He was a good journalist. So he was mentoring me in some of the journalistic work, because he's an award-winning journalist when he had been out of prison.
Really?
Yeah. So I found hanging out with people like that, and one of the guests that you've had on your podcast, Graham Henry, I've got to know him pretty well. We grew up in the same area. He was a few years ahead of me, and I was terrified by him. He's done some bad things, but then you look at the way his upbringing and that, and you almost understand it. So the type of people I'm speaking to are not the ones that are still encouraging, crime or supporting crime, but it's just trying to understand why they went down that path. And I think that's what comes out in the book. So it's sort of taking the reader on a journey with myself, how I'm sort of changing my views. I haven't become soft. Like I'm not, I'm still, you do the crime, you do the crime, you do the time type attitude. But it's made me look at life a little bit differently, which is healthy, I think.
And Graham is just such a fascinating person. Before I spoke to him, I listened to your episode on your podcast, I Catch Killers, with him.
Yeah.
And just listening to him talk in depth about his childhood, and you think to yourself, how does this dude come out any other way?
Yes. Yep.
Like there's no way that this man can come out any other way other than a violent human being. And he is a very nice dude now.
Yeah.
I don't know what he was like then, but he's a very nice dude now. And you look at him, you look at other people who have been, particularly, let's talk, 30, 40 years ago, in institutions where they might have been assaulted or particularly in like boys' homes and stuff like that. All of a sudden they've been removed from their families for whatever reason. Maybe there's been a death, maybe something's happened. Then they're being looked after by the state or by a church group. Then other horrible things happen to them there. Then they go into juvie. Something happens to them there. I'm not sure what happened in Grafton. What was the arrangement there?
Grafton was where the intractables. So these were the prisoners that were causing other prisoners in prisons that the corrective services couldn't control them. So they all bundled them all together and sent them up to Grafton. And the Grafton welcome was you get out of the prison van and you're attacked with batons and all that. It was accepted. So that was a way of dealing with it. It was a punishment prison, but it created a lot of violent people. And, corrective services, I don't want to bash corrective services because I'm hearing it from the prisoners' point of view. There's some really good people in there trying to make a difference within the prisons, and that's important to get across. But that was just, you're looking at the 70s. The world was a little bit different. Oh, these are bad bastards. What are we going to do? We're going to put them in there, and if they misbehave, we're going to break them. And that's what they did. Bernie was in solitary confinement, and he told a story about he was trying to stay sane. He found a button because it was just black, and he was in there for months. And so he'd throw the button round in his cell, and that would occupy his brain because he'd look for the button by feel all around the cell, and sometimes he'd find it quickly. Other times it might take him a day, but that gave his day a purpose. So you get put in that environment, and you wonder how you would turn out. And then, Russell Manser, he got sent to he grew up in Mount Druitt, came from a good family, but just, saw the wild streaks, saw the gangsters and thought, that's the life I want to live. Knocked off cars as, people did, and then sent to a boys' home and was sexually assaulted by the people, and everyone was getting sexually assaulted there. And he's got this program called Voice of a Survivor, which is talking about institutional sexual assaults and sexual abuse. And, he turned himself into a tough guy, like he is a tough guy, because he didn't want that to happen to him again. And he got sent to Long Bay as a 16 or 17-year-old. The judge was punishing him because he came from Mount Druitt and stole a car on the North Shore, and he needed to be taught a lesson. Gets sent there and was sexually abused there as a kid in an adult prison. So, how are you going to turn out if that type of thing happens? So it's not justifying everything they do. There's some people who've got no excuses and they're just born bad and they'll be bad for the rest of their lives. But it's interesting having a look at some of the journeys that people have gone through. There's another person I spoke to, Wilma Robb. Her parents couldn't look after her, and she was put in Parramatta Girls' Home. And the brutality. She hasn't got a criminal offence. She's in her 70s now, lovely lady, really, just a beautiful soul. But when you look at what happened to her as a child and how she was brutalised, like her face being smashed in and teeth knocked out, and just horrendous things for a young girl that hadn't done anything wrong, didn't have parents that could look after her. And so those type of people have sort of opened my eyes to different things. And that's sort of the journey I've been on, because I've left the cops, and that was my thing. One day I was a cop, the cop's cop. That was my life, and that was taken away from me literally overnight. So I had to steer my passion somewhere else, and that's I'm enjoying what I'm doing.
Yeah, and people love it. They love the Jube. People cannot get enough of the Jube. Mate, I was at your show in Newcastle.
Yeah.
With the great Rob Galton.
Yeah.
And people were there. There were 40-year-olds throwing knickers up on the stage. It was beautiful.
That's funny.
I couldn't believe it. I was just like, I knew you were good at what you did.
Yeah.
But I went to the show not knowing how you were going to do it.
Yeah.
And it was an immersive experience. It was great. It was fantastic. And people, they loved it. They were sticking around out the front waiting for you to come out afterwards, but you were too busy having a good time out the back. But it was really, really cool. And kudos to you and Rob for creating an amazing show.
Well, there's a history to that show. Like when it was put to me to do this live stage show, like I'm comfortable talking in public. I did that a lot when I was in the police. You're doing media stand-ups or presentations. But this was completely different. This is people are coming to see you to be entertained. And it was sort of, I was reluctant when I was approached to do it. And then they threw Rob Carlton in the mix. And Rob, who's an actor, been in the industry his whole life, really talented fella and a good mate of mine. We've been mates for years. He said, no, we can do this. And this will be great. You got 1,000 stories. We'll put it on stage. It'll be fantastic. I thought, in my stupid little mind, we'd be sitting down and there'd be a Q&A, which, I've done 100 times. Okay, well, that's not that hard. And people would probably walk out and go, oh, yeah, that was good. It was, we got to see, hear about crime. And Rob's going, no, stupid, this is a theatre.
Because he is a thespian.
Oh,
My word.
Very much so.
He rang me up the other week. He goes, Mr. Butterfield. I was like, who is this? He goes, oh, hey, Rob, how are you, mate?
Yeah, he is dead set a classic. So I'm thinking, okay, 2 chairs, and Rob will go, so why did you join the police, Gary? And I'd be like that. He's gone, no. Give us a story. And Rob, because he read the book for the audio book of I Catch Killers, and he's known me that long, so he knows all my stories anyway. And he's gone, okay, let's start with something powerful. And I go, well, the crime I talked about was a horrendous crime in 2004 where a young girl was abducted and the father was murdered by this notorious pedophile. And I'm always cautious doing a show that I'm not going to glorify crime. And that was a starting point. Well, I don't want to glorify crime, but I want people to have an understanding of what crime is about. So I've said, okay, let's talk about this, because people will be just shocked by it, but understand the gravity of what we're talking about. And if you want to know the life of a homicide detective, this is smack bang. This gives you a snapshot of what it's like over 24 hours. And Rob's going, okay, well, we're going to take the audience on a journey. I'm thinking, fuck, where are we going with this? So in the end, and you saw the show, it's coming out, and it's not what people expected from a show like that. And it was great. It was a good experience. I've never been so nervous in my life.
Well, that's going to be my next question, because oftentimes when I'm about to go on stage, I'm thinking to myself, I can't do this. I don't know how to do this. I'm not funny.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
I felt like that 10 times, and you're a damn sight funnier than I. How it came, because it was put off twice because of COVID.
Yep.
And after it was put off the second time, it was almost in the back of my mind, okay, well, let's just let it slide.
This is the universe saying, don't do this.
No, because I always thought, like, the podcast's been successful, the book's been successful, and other things I've done, I'm thinking, okay, this is going to take that one step too far where you fall off the edge, and it's just going to be a whole crowd booing or just silent, just staring and just walking out. And so I'm having those nightmares. And then all the planets aligned with the places opening up. So we only had about 2 or 3 weeks before the show actually started to get going. And our first 2 shows were at Enmore Theatre, and
Your first 2 shows were at the Enmore Theatre?
On a Saturday night.
That's madness.
I know. And so stupidly, I'm looking for Enmore Theatre. I found your show at the Enmore Theatre. I'm watching that.
Very good.
I'm sitting at home, and it was a good show. I might
Thank you very much.
But I'm sitting at home going, fuck, there's a lot of people there. That's a bit intense.
Mate, when I walked out that night, I was terrified, because we were filming that, and we had to be there the entire day, which made it worse.
Yes.
So I was there from 10 o'clock in the morning until showtime at 9 o'clock at night. So I was just like, oh, this is just, I was panicking. And Claire was like, it's going to be fine. I was like, this is fucked. I don't want to do this.
Well, that was my narrative. So we get there, and Nick Fordham, who manages a lot of the stuff I've done, he encouraged me. He's going, no, it's great. I'm going, Nick, what if we put it up and no one comes? Like, that's going to be embarrassing. I Catch Killers live show and there's no one there. There'll be you there and a couple of family and a few friends. He's going, no, it'll be right, mate. I'm telling you, this is going to roll. And then on the night, Rob's in I was calling them the change room, but now I understand it's a dressing room. But he was in the change room beside me, and I could hear him doing voice warm up. And I'm thinking, what's going on? I stuck my head around the corner, and Rob's getting into character, and I've got nothing. I am just so nervous.
You don't need anything. I don't do that. You don't need that.
I started shadow boxing.
That's what I do. That's what I do out the back. I'm always shadow boxing, because there's nothing. If you saw me before I walk on stage, I would look like the biggest nutcase of all time. Because what else do you do?
Yeah, I just had to dump some adrenaline and just shake those nerves out. And then the show went well, and then Nick Fordham, my manager, came up and gone, I was so nervous. I thought we've gone too far this time. And I've gone, thank you very much for telling me now. But it was a good experience. And I enjoyed it with Rob. I took a lot from Rob, and it's given me a confidence to do a lot of other things. But it's quite intoxicating up there and telling a story and playing with the crowd. And each show that you'd know better than I did has a different feel. And you've got to, work with the crowd and that. But, we had some funny times and enjoyed it. And, it was something, it's like a tick-the-box type thing. It's something that enjoyed doing, and I sound like a wanker, but now I can say I performed at Enmore on a Saturday night.
But that's amazing. That's a really big deal. And I think that the great thing about that particular show is you can now, it wasn't created in a way where, you go from A to B or A to Z of your life.
Yeah.
Where you can never do another show again.
Yes. Yeah.
You left people wanting more. You left that going, okay, in 2 years' time, when Gary's back out, I'm definitely going to come.
Yeah, well, that's and again, kudos to Rob, because it was for theatre. We want to give people every emotion, and there's tears, there's laughter, there's anger, there's shock, there's everything that covered it, and it was sort of ebbed and flowed, and I enjoyed it, and I didn't feel like it was selling out. I didn't feel like I was just going, oh yeah, we locked up this crook, locked up that crook. It was sort of you got to reveal a little bit of yourself, so I gave a little bit of myself in the show, but it was an experience, but absolutely terrified, and I can normally steel myself. You go into the witness box. That's a scary time, and different things that come up in life. But walking out on the crowd, I only forgot my lines once.
Yep.
And that was terrifying. And I think it was down at Melbourne at the entertainment centre or whatever. It was really big hall, and I'm staring. The lights were hitting me in the face, and I'm talking. And then I went blank.
Yeah,
I went blank, and there was just this awkward silence for about 10 seconds, and then I stumbled through, and Rob helped out a little bit. But that was the worst. But I also learnt you're as good as your last show, because after I did about 3 or 4, I've gone, I got this covered. And one, I didn't wind myself up and get the right degree of nervous tension, and I thought I was a bit slack on that one. So
I think the nerves are great.
You got to have them, haven't you?
Because, if you go out there, he's calm and collected. Like, people can feel that.
Yeah.
And I don't think they want to, because they've done everything that night to get themselves in the position where they're at your show. They've got a babysitter. They've thought about it all week. They've spent their money. If you walk out there and you don't care, fuck that. You'll never get them as a repeat customer.
100%. And that's where I really make the point of, giving a bit of yourself to the show, so that they're feeling like you're playing your part in it, and so that's why it's sort of raw, and we're fairly open with what we say. But it was fun.
Yeah, and I came to your show, and I came backstage, and you had a big group back there, and you introduced me to Graham Henry.
Yeah,
and you said, you got to meet this bloke, and I had no idea who he was.
Yeah,
I'd never heard of him before, and you talked about him like, he's a you said you know this guy. So I can't remember what you said, but you were like, you'll know him.
Yeah.
I had no idea until I got in the car and Googled him. I was like, oh, my God. Claire goes, I just offered him a cup of tea if he comes over. And then we Googled who he was, and I was like, wow, that's really interesting. And now you're mixing with completely different people, and it seems like that's what you're doing for this book as well.
Yeah, it is. And people might say, well, what's he doing? Has he crossed sides and that? And I've had
gone to the dark side.
Gone to the dark side. And, these and – some of the people I'm speaking to, and I'm not saying this disrespectfully, some of them would probably want to belt me, and they would in the right circumstances. And I've gone to functions where people, I'm looking at who have I locked up here? Have I gone after this person?
Have you run into people at shows?
Yeah, a few people have come up to me and said certain things, but it's been good, all good so far.
Anyone you locked up?
There's a few that have turned up that I've locked up, but
and it's all going well.
Yeah, nothing personal, personal. So speaking to these people, but I think they get where I'm coming from now, and I've been fortunate, and I think it started with Bernie Matthews that he vouched for me, because it's a world where they're not going to talk to me unless they think they're comfortable talking to me. And they understand where I'm coming from, and they're not judging me for being a copper. Some would, and I know some people I've spoken to get a bit of shit thrown back at them, going, "What the hell? Why are you speaking to a cop?" But I think when they break it all down, what I'm trying to do is just let people tell their story, and have had no real sort of incidents at this stage.
Now, you bumped back into the news recently. And I spoke to you, and I don't want to go into too much depth. I don't know what you're comfortable talking about.
Yeah.
But you were back in the news.
Back front and centre.
Front and centre. Can you run us through what happened there?
Yeah. Okay. That was, again, being dragged back into the William Tyrrell matter, which is a continual source of frustration to me, in that I think, we really need questions answered on what's going on there. That was a person, and the judgment hasn't come down. It was a judge alone. A person was suing the New South Wales Police for malicious prosecution, which is fine, which is his right. Where I was a little bit, well, not a little bit aggrieved, I was pissed off that the focus was on me. But again, I accept that. You stick your head up, but I went to that court matter. This person was suing the New South Wales Police. He wasn't suing Gary Jubelin. And I get off the train at the railway station, there's cameras in my face, and it was reported like it's virtually, this is what Gary Jubelin has done.
Did you anticipate that reaction as you got off the train to the courthouse?
I was hoping that it wouldn't be. Like I really thought they would report it. Yeah, let's just see what this is. I played a part in the police investigation for this matter, but I'm more than comfortable in justifying it, my position. But I spent 2 days in the witness box under the majority of which was cross-examination. I had my I Catch Killers book there because they were quoting passages from that. And again, that's their right. But I really felt like I felt isolated in that I'm answering questions for what I did in the police, but I didn't have the resources of the police supporting me. I didn't have access to the documents that created 7 years ago. So look, we'll wait and see what happens when the judge comes back, whether it was a malicious prosecution. I'm comfortable in my part in it. Whether what that counts for, who knows? But I've got documents there that supported it. I was tendering documents, and I feel comfortable with the part I played in that matter. But what I didn't like about it, and I'm talking around the subject a little bit, is how it was hung out like I'm the person to blame for it. Well, no, there's all these reports I've done that everything I was doing was being sanctioned from above. So don't just hang.
Well, that was going to be my point. They're in your employer.
Yeah,
you have a boss, right?
Yes.
Like you're not just going out willy nilly.
No, and that 100%. So that's the thing that I tried to get across in the witness box, but I wasn't getting much help because I didn't have anyone representing my personal needs. There was people representing the New South Wales Police needs. But 2 days in the witness box is not fun. I didn't want to be dragged back into it. I'm always prepared to justify my actions, so I never shy away from it. Other people say, well, no, I've left or I've gone off sick, I'm not available. I'll always front up to a court matter. And on the William Tyrrell matter, another part that became public was towards the end of last year, where they were doing a search.
In a garden, I believe.
In the garden. And, it started off with all the fanfare. We've got a breakthrough. We know, we're anticipating we're going to find something.
Because that is what we thought here. We were like, oh, my God, something's happening. What did you feel when you were at home hearing about this? I assume you hear about it on the news for the first time.
Look, when it came out, the phone just rings. So everyone's phoning me. Journalists are phoning me going, what do you think this is? What do you think that is? And this is not with the benefit of hindsight. I said, look, first day, I wasn't sure. Maybe they have got a breakthrough. I haven't been on it for 3 years. They've been working on it. Maybe there is a breakthrough. Then I started to hear things that were coming through, and I'm not going to name the people, but the people that the accusing finger was being pointed at. And I thought, no, that's not correct. But it wasn't my position to make comments at that stage. So I just sort of sat there quietly. And then one day, my phone started, about the second or third day, my phone just started going ballistic. Are you okay? Are you this? Are you that? And this is all coming up in the morning. I'm thinking, I think I'm okay. I'm at home. I'm not doing anything wrong. And all these friends and past acquaintances are reaching out. And the New South Wales Police Commissioner decided to criticise the investigation I ran. And I'm thinking, well, what do I do here? My initial reaction was just go on the front foot. And then I thought about it. Do you just, if you're being criticised, do you just let it play out? I didn't really know what to do, but it became so intense. Like I was literally on the phone for about, the whole day. I didn't sit down. I was basically on the phone with people going, what do you want to say? What do you want to say? I thought, well, stuff this. I'm going to go on and put my position forward. And I went on Ben Fordham's show because that's who the commissioner, when he criticised the investigation. I don't want to be critical of the police, but it got to the point where if you're going to publicly criticise an investigation I ran, well, I'm going to defend myself. And so I went on, and I think I was balanced in the way I put my message across, but basically said, well, there's all these documents there. They're admissible documents. They're there, that accountable documents, I should say. They're accountable documents, and they'll show everything I've done. And in the 4 years that I ran the investigation, there was not one bit of criticism from anyone above me about the way I ran the investigation. So then to hear the most senior officer criticising the investigation, which I've never heard that before, and people for interstate were ringing me and saying, it's unusual, like New South Wales Police Commissioner criticising an active investigation. So it was unfortunate, but Isaac, the saddest thing about the whole William Tyrrell thing is how many people have been hurt in this, and I'm not including myself in that. Anything that's happened to me pales into insignificance compared to what's happened to his biological family and the foster family. And then the rumours that have been spread and the information that's been leaked to the media, I think is quite disgraceful. And people always said I go hard on crooks, and I did go hard on crooks. I make no apologies for that. But I would never throw people under the bus like they've been thrown under on this. And unless you don't throw people under the bus like that. So you've got people that have suffered, losing a child, as in William, and then the other things that are flowing on from it. And I think people really want some answers. And I also look at, and I'm only talking about this because I was dragged into it, and it's a funny thing, and it's almost like, if I wasn't criticised, I would respectfully stay on the sideline. But I was criticised very deliberately about the way I ran the investigation. Well, I make the comment that the way that played out in the media, everyone was certain there was a breakthrough. I've never seen a circus like...
Well, they took the media there.
Yes.
The media was there from day one. It's not like, oh, hang on, we're up at Kendall just, driving around, we'll have a bit of a dig.
Yeah.
See what's going on. No, the media is there from day one, like it is an announcement is about to be made.
It was like a theatre. It was Rob Carlton couldn't have done as good a job.
Well, let's not go that far. He's pretty good.
Okay.
He's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, maybe he could have, but it was like a theatre.
Yeah.
That every piece of material they found, it was here's a possible breakthrough.
We found
here's this. Here's that. So it went on for I think 3 weeks, and after the 3 weeks, I would have thought someone would have to front the media and answer questions. Like, you invited the media in, you invited society in to have a look at what we're doing, and then it just stopped. And there was a half-page media release saying we've concluded our search up there.
At what point does it's like attack or bringing you into it happened? Is that after the 3 weeks when they come up with nothing?
Right at the start. At the start. So it was in day 2 or day 3.
Right.
Brought me into it. And I just hope, and I think, and we bring it all back, and I don't want it to be a slanging match between me and the police, because that's ridiculous. The priority should be about, let's find out what's happened to William. But if you're going to engage the media the way that the media were engaged during that search, it's a double-edged sword. You've got to be then prepared to answer questions when it doesn't play out the way that you've led everyone to believe it was going to play out. So I haven't seen anything like it in my career. So
when you were on that case, and you got pulled off the case, how close do you think you were to solving it?
Yeah, look, that's a question that's often asked of me. Obviously, I can't say definitively I would have solved it, and I think I'd be a bit of a wanker if you just left me on the case. I would have solved it, but I had a clear line of inquiry that I was pursuing, and I had a strategy, and I had experience, and that was all just cut off when I was taken away. So I don't want to be critical of the people that took it over, but I've said it once, I'll say it 1,000 times, I'll say it till the day I died. I never did a handover.
Yeah, I was going to say there was never a handover.
Yeah, and people are just ignorant if they say, well, there was no benefit from a handover. The fact that I didn't sit down and speak to the people taking over that investigation is shameful, I think. Whether it made a difference, we don't know. But what I do know about murder investigations, and that's what we have to consider William's disappearance as a murder investigation, success is on incremental millimeters. So you make one mistake, you got to take every advantage that you've got. And why wouldn't you debrief me? Like what was my charges weren't, I wasn't this corrupt person that was going out robbing banks or selling drugs or whatever. I recorded the conversation whilst working on the investigation. It would not have impacted on the integrity of the investigation to a handover, a debrief. But again, I keep saying the sad part about all this is that to a degree, and I play a part in it, I suppose, just talking about the conflict, is that it's getting lost that a 3-year-old child's disappeared. And, as a law enforcement agency, we should be judged by our response for it.
And it becomes about you and the boss of the police. It's like, what are you talking? That doesn't. Who cares?
Yeah,
let's find this kid.
When it's all said and done, that's right. Who cares?
And that's got to break the hearts of the family.
Yeah.
They see you back up there and this bloke talking about each other. Not about it. You're not talking about him, but you're talking about his statements about you on a radio show.
Yeah.
Like, hang on.
Wouldn't you prefer us all working together?
Where's William?
Yeah.
And it's like Claire, my wife, she's very invested in this case.
Yeah.
She's read the books on it, and it breaks her heart, as it does for a lot of people. And when all this happens, it's like, come on. Like I don't know. I guess you're butting your head against the wall at the same time everyone else is.
Look, it frustrates me, and I think it frustrates a lot of people that we need to find out. And one thing I do know, a lot of people come to conclusions by what's fed to the media. The police provide information to the media, and the people naturally go, okay, this has happened, that's happened. I just say let's be very cautious on this one. This was a difficult investigation. I hope the facts come out, the full facts come out, and then people can make an informed judgment. The inquest, I'm not sure when the coroner's going to hand down the inquest. I believe at one stage he was going to hand down the findings, I think almost 2 years ago. It's still just sitting there. So I'd be very interested when that occurs too. So, yeah.
Completely off that topic. Let's move away from it. But obviously it needs to be spoken about. Yeah. When we talk about the path that someone follows and we talk about badness, what do you think should be done? If I have a child and they are 14 years old and they end up in a correctional facility for kids, what happens at that point? What should be looked at, do you think?
I think you can make, and this is just I'm not an expert, but from my observations of it, you've really got to try to make there's that dangerous period of kids where they can go off the rails. And that sort of 10, 12 to 15, 16, you can lose kids in a heartbeat. You got to really, and I talk more from a parenting point of view, but I know with my son's soccer team, I was coaching them around that age, and you could see kids that were on the right path and then just lost their way very quickly. So my thing with kids is that you've just got to watch them closely, steer them, have a good role model there for them. A lot of the kids that I see get into trouble don't have good role models. Talk about bikies. A lot of people join gangs because they're looking for that connection. So if you can give kids that connection, I'm a big believer in team sport, and I know team sport gets criticised where you hear someone doing something wrong in the NRL or whatever, but that teaches people that they've got to work together.
Yeah.
So I think that's important, but it's those early years that you've just got to watch that if the kid heads off in the wrong direction. And I think a lot of people say that the quality of the kid is you can look at by the circle of friends that they keep. And I think some kids get led astray. Then you've got kids with horrendous upbringings, and what I've found, ones that have been sexually assaulted or bashed when they're young. If one good person comes into their life, the difference that can make. And I see it time and time again, different stories where a kid is dead set heading down the road of he's going to spend half his time behind steel bars. But one good person shows them a bit of respect, interest, and love, all the things that people need. That can make a hell of a difference. So if you've got someone that you're worried about heading off in the wrong direction, just stay close to them as you can and just steer them through and guide them through it. And,
we see a lot of kids now who are sort of in that esche culture, where they're, the scooter gangs and all that type of stuff, hanging out at train stations.
I saw that
tag and stuff.
Scooter gang. That was
Weird.
horrendous.
It's weird.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Like I've got friends whose son is sort of mixing around in that sort of crew, and they don't really they're not doing anything.
Yeah.
Like they might be stealing vapes.
Yeah.
But that's it. Like there's nothing really going on. Like they're not like a bikie gang. Like they're not whatever they're doing, or they're not sort of going around selling drugs or anything like that. They're just sort of running around doing really annoying shit.
Yeah.
Like they're tagging things, and like I hate graffiti. It does my fucking head in. Like it's just my thing. Like there's a house around the corner here, and the people are just about to move into it, and someone tagged all over the house. I'm like, you fucking thing. Did me head in. But just little things. People seem to be doing those, and young kids. Yeah. And I don't know. And they always seem to be coming from good houses. Yeah. Like they're going around robbing. They might be stealing a car. Yeah. They're going around. They're like 14 years old stealing a car. It's like where does this come from?
Look, and I don't. I'm talking like I'm this enlightened person seeing seeing life from a different thing. But I saw like that. I saw a clip on TV with the scooter gang or whatever. Young kids, 14, 15, just total disrespect. I'd like to see some hard policing come in on that line. Like that is just not acceptable. You let them get away with that, and that's going to cause a problem down the track. And people, that's part of that gang culture. But then they'd be looking up to the bikies. There's probably been too much said about bikies of recent times. All the stuff that's going on in the media at the moment. The people that I've been speaking to, the ones that have gone through that time, and they look back and go, look, the bikies, it had its moment in life, but when I look back, you join a bikie gang, you're either going to end up in jail or dead, and that's generally how it plays out. So we've got to get the right role models. Talk about sport. I'm a big one in team sport, but I'm also very much push the old police citizens, police boys club, or police youth clubs. Yep. Yeah. That culture of giving kids confidence, boxing. I love boxing. That's my passion. I see kids come in, and it gives them a sense of self-respect, where they don't have to prove themselves. They find out they're not as tough as they think they are because they come in and this little skinny kid will towel them up in the ring, and then they learn that if you put effort in, that effort, by putting effort in, you'll get respect and you'll get reward and you'll get discipline and all that. So I think things like that can make a difference, but I'm horrified that kids, there's that sense of entitlement that think they can create havoc. Now, when I was that age, and I'm sure you would have been the same, if a policeman turned up or an adult spoke
terrified.
To me, I would have been, yeah.
But I know my old man, when he was growing up in Penrith, St Mary's, coppers would beat the shit out of you. Yep. That was what would happen. He got put in the back of a paddy wagon one night, and they did donuts around a park. And he, cuffed up, hanging off the ceiling, and they, skinned his arm and all that type of stuff. But you didn't fuck with them.
Yes.
And I think obviously that's not great. No, and a copper that night beat the shit out of him.
Yeah, and you
not
can't,
great.
Yeah, and you can't allow that either.
But there's got to be middle ground here.
Yeah,
where there is a bit of fear that you go into. There's going to be some repercussions.
Yes,
and I think these kids are just like, oh, it doesn't matter. My parents, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah, that total lack of respect or concern, and that is concerning. That I could see. That I was watching it, and I'm thinking, this is pretty bad. Those kids, if they think they can get away with that sort of shit and there's not consequences, this is going to escalate. Like, I think the one I saw, they threw a milkshake or something over a bloke, or a glass of Coke over some poor bloke working at the shopping centre. And I thought, okay, they get away with that. If there's not consequences for that, then the next thing they'll walk up and belt someone and take their wallet. There'll be a progression because they got no fear. So, it is concerning, but I would like the police, that respect, to come back for police. And it doesn't have to be, and I know the stories, and we've all got the stories of, like happened to your old man. But there's still got to be that authority, and there's a point in time. And I've always said when I was a cop, You could diffuse situations, but you diffuse situations without escalating it. Like, you don't come in dramatically. You talk to someone, you diffuse the situation, But when you've got to draw the line in the sand, you draw the line in the sand, and okay, well, you're about to feel the weight of the law come down.
Well, you got to have some power. If you don't have any power, like people call police because they have power.
Yeah.
If you don't have any power, what are you going to do? Just try and talk people. Like when I used to work in security, and you have a female who's carrying on or trying to fight, you have no power. Like you just going, can you please stop? But that's what police seem to have, particularly with young people right now.
Yeah.
They're just like, can you not do that? And they take it to their parents. The parents can't do anything either. I mean, I see this with my own family, right? So when I was growing up, if mum threatened me with dad, I was shit scared. Now my brothers, who are, coming up into their 20s now, back when they were, in their late teenage years or whatever, like if mum said, oh, can you do that? They just go, nah. And dad would go, I can't make them. But when I was a kid, I was terrified.
I know. My household was the same. Dad's coming home.
Oh shit. Like you're scared. You're like, oh, wait until your father gets home. And now they're just like, bring it on.
Yeah,
let's go.
I know. And that's that. We've got to get that right balance, haven't we? We've got to get that right mix, because if we get it wrong, we're going to have this whole generation of people that
and we're
just
seeing that
out
now.
of control.
But that ego shift and leaving your ego at the door is great with combat sports, as you said with boxing. It's the same with jiu-jitsu and MMA training and that type of stuff. Learning that, learning skills, learning how to fight, really important. Something that I wish I did as a kid. But learning also that someone can fuck you up very easily and you don't know if it's going to come or not.
And what I also find is that the kids that, and it translates into adult life, if you know you can look after yourself, you can walk away from more things, because you don't have to prove yourself. If your insecurities, oh, maybe he could belt me, but if you know, no, I can belt that bloke. I don't have to prove myself. Yeah, sorry, mate, you're a tough guy. See ya.
Yeah, or you might end up carrying a knife if you don't know that you can handle yourself.
Yeah, well, that's a concern too.
We saw that up in Brisbane recently. I don't know if you saw that video of the young man being stabbed in the neck. I saw it come up on Twitter and I was just watching it. I didn't know what it was. And I was really taken back.
Yeah.
Like you've just seen this young man's life end.
Yeah. And that's what people don't realise with knives. They don't think they're guns, and they think, oh, well, I can be tough with a knife. But I've seen too many times in homicide where one stab wound in the wrong spot causes someone's life. Talking about the policing too, but I do feel sorry for police in this day and age, because the old, you take them round the back and give them a kick up the arse. Could you imagine if a police officer did that now, and it would be filmed, and it would be the most outrageous thing? They'd lose their job. They'd be,
and it's not their fault.
Yeah,
it's not the police's fault at all. It's, I guess, it's politics at this point.
It is. There is a bit of politics, but I think that home, that discipline's got to be instilled in the kids, but they've still got to have respect for the police. And if we lose respect for the police, I think it's in America where California, around or LA, where the police are not intervening if the offence is of a minor nature under a certain amount.
I think if you steal under $1,000 or something, they don't even prosecute you at all.
They don't come out.
That's mad.
It is mad, because you can imagine how that would the flow-on effect from there.
What does that teach people? What does that teach an entire generation? That the cops aren't going to do shit.
Well, you start to take it. Imagine if you're walking down, or you've got a bike, and someone's just stealing your bike because it's under $1,000 and you can't do anything. What are you going to do? You'll take law into your own hands.
Yeah, and everyone's got a gun.
It's scary.
Like when I went to America, we went to a gun show in Florida, and it was great fun. It was great. You just walk around with a gun. It's amazing. But do you trust everyone with a gun?
No. I think one of the good things that came from the Port Arthur massacre was taking guns off the street. And I was in the police at the time, and I remember people would just come in with bags of guns and just put them on the counter at the police station. And those domestic situations that escalate, people do stupid things at particular points, and when you've got a gun, it's too easy, and you pull the trigger and someone's dead. And
it is so easy.
Yeah.
I love shooting guns. Yeah. I'm a big fan of guns, and I understand the American point of view where, hey, we have the right to bear arms.
Bear arms.
I get it. I get where you're coming from, but also I know a lot of crazy people who I don't want to have a gun. But also, if something happens at my house, I would prefer to have a weapon.
Yes.
So it's one of these things where you got to weigh up. It's like, hey, I should have a gun, but no one else.
Now that would be
that's how I think it should work.
If you could bring that in, that'd be cool.
Yeah, but they are fun.
I've got
get
the
it.
gun and no one else has got the gun.
But I see people all the time that I'm like, thank fuck they don't have a gun.
Yeah.
Or teachers. They're talking about giving teachers in schools guns.
That scares me.
I've had some substitute teachers that I reckon would have turned and sprayed the entire class.
I had some crazy teachers in my time.
You did?
Yeah. But there was one, I won't mention the name, but it was funny because we were having a long time ago, and he's since dead, but he assaulted me, like seriously, dragged me out of a window. And I was talking to
out of a window?
Out of a window at in the music class.
How does someone drag someone out of a window?
It was a big window, and I just happened to be sitting there, and the person sitting beside me said something offensive to this teacher as he's walking past. He thought it was me.
Right.
And he dragged me out of the window. Then he put me on detention, and it was quite weird. Just, me and this creepy-looking teacher just staring at me day and day in, and to the point where I said, "No, I'm out of here." I wasn't a real tough guy. Mum was on the canteen. I said, "You go."
Good.
Tell my mum because she's doing canteen duty. But I was speaking to Graham, and Graham apparently belted that teacher when because he went through the same school.
Really?
And I said, "Okay, so that's what's happened to him."
So Graham's quite a bit older than you.
Yeah. He's I think he would have been probably 10 years ahead of me, sort of thing. But his reputation preceded him growing up around Epping.
So this poor teacher's been kicked the shit out of by Graham Henry, and then he's just picking people in classrooms. He goes, I can take him. Come here.
Yeah. So
that's the flow-on effect.
the flow-on effect.
So he's had the shit kicked out of him by a gangster or soon-to-be gangster. And then he's turned bad straight away.
I think that's what happened. Well, actually, it's a bit sad. I think he had a mental health issue. But
well, being a teacher, and I know they love a protest, the teachers, and I get it. All right, you get paid enough though. Calm down. Maybe pay coppers more. Maybe you should pay coppers more because they're out there dealing with crazy people. Well, so are teachers though. I know a lot of crazy kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can only imagine the shit that they have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. I thought I wanted to be a teacher.
Yeah.
Nah. Looking at it now, knowing what particularly teenage boys are like, I could not think of anything worse.
It would be I couldn't imagine it. Like it would be terrifying having those kids come at you the whole time, and the way exhausting.
Like I'm sure you saw it as a kid too.
Yeah.
Some of the breakdowns that teachers have, like when you make a teacher cry, like there's a part of you that's like, yes, we did it, and there's another part you go, oh shit, we're bad people.
I had a teacher that, and I was in year 11, I think it was, so I wasn't driving, 16, and we had to go to a play. We went to the theatre, and he was our English teacher, and he's picked us up and taken us to this play. Like it was all people getting how they could to the play. I remember we walked in there and he had all this alcohol shoved up his shirt, and it all fell out when we were walking into the theatre. And we were 16-year-old kids. And then we finished. Oh, this sounds like the story's going to end really bad. It didn't. Then he invited us back to his place.
Oh, what?
After the play to have more drinks.
Oh, nice.
And it was just and we're at 15, 16. And then I remember, like, we were drunk. There was about 3 of us back at his place. And then he's driven us home. And I remember pulling him up, when he pulled up out the front of my place, he nearly crashed because he was driving drunk and all that. And you think, they're teachers. They're
Well, teachers are real people. And that's what you learn when you leave school. You have a friend that becomes a teacher, and then they're going to school every day, and you go, I don't try, because I got a mate, his name is, he's a teacher. I don't know how he is. He's not a bad person, but he's just an idiot. I don't know how he's allowed to teach like humans that are growing.
What's his name? I'm not gonna make any.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't mention his name. Maybe actually, Connor, when you edit this, could you bleep his name out?
Mr. Bleep.
Mr. Bleeper. No, he's a lovely man, and he's a great teacher, woodwork teacher, allegedly. But yeah, just these, like, he goes to school every day and has never left school.
Yeah,
I don't know how they do it. No wonder they love a day off protesting.
All the protesting, but you got to give a good teacher can make a difference. Like, we've all had those good teachers in your life, and I think back to a couple that really left an impression on me and sort of steered me in the right direction. So yeah, I do respect teachers. Because they play such an important role, and probably more so now, the way society is and broken marriages and different things. So, yeah.
Back to guns, what do you think the Americans should do with the gun laws? What should they do with people having access to semi-automatic or automatic weapons?
Well, those automatic, the right to bear arms. That's when I'm pissed off with you, but just you stand there so I can load my gun.
Yep.
And with the
old school
gunpowder.
sort of
Yeah. So I understand that, but with these assault rifles and that, there's no place for civilians to have those weapons. They're dangerous. They can kill a lot of people. So you're not going to, I don't know, I don't understand the culture enough, but it appears you're never going to be able to wind it back completely. But when you hear those massacres at those schools, and that's not enough.
And they're crazy. They're all the time too. Like it's a daily occurrence that a mass shooting happens there.
That's not enough to jolt them back into, okay, let's take an extreme action. I don't know what will. So if they got to, okay, you can have a gun, but you're only allowed one shot. It's something, just not a semi-automatic or an assault rifle. They're called assault rifles because they're there.
Could you argue that a car is as dangerous? Like you could drive that into a group of people?
Most definitely, most definitely. But let's not give people ideas with cars. But I think it's the build up with a firearm. It's just angry person. And this is I'm referencing my book, which is a bit sounds.
Nah,
a bit,
please
bit,
go and buy it. By the way,
but
if you haven't bought it already, go to Amazon.
I had a copy of it here.
I know. I was expecting that. When is it out on sale?
September. But let's not cheapen my comment here.
Go and get the fuck.
With Julian Knight before the Hoddle Street massacre, the build up and like researching that.
I'm not familiar with that.
Okay,
by the way.
I think it was 5 or 7 people shot. He shot a police helicopter. It was a pretty bad one. I think it was before the. I'm not sure. It was in Victoria, but I'm not sure if it was before the one in Tasmania. But things that built up where he just decided I've had enough, and it's sort of he joined the army. He was kicked out of the army, or an issue happened there because he was charged with an assault, and then he came back home, but his bedroom wasn't set up anymore. Someone else had, at home, and then he was going out. He wanted to go out that night, and his car broke down. The battery was dead, or whatever, and you could just see it just sort of escalate, and it was almost like if you put a timeline there, you'd go, okay, that happened. If we could have circumvented that, then that happened, then that happened. Shit, I've got nothing to live for. I'll show you. And he gets his firearm and goes out and starts shooting people. Firearms put the idea into people's heads. I think in our brain, the car is transport. Firearms are to kill people. So if someone's got something going wrong in their head, that they feel like killing people, they go to the firearm because that's there. So that would be the difference.
And that one sounds so different to, say, like the Las Vegas shooting.
Yeah.
Have you seen the footage of that dude walking in with countless luggage cases over days and days and days?
That was the one shooting.
Yeah.
That was.
I was watching this short little doco on it, and it's got all the security camera footage. So he turns up, he disappears with his car, comes back, more luggage, comes back, more luggage, and he's got, I don't know how many guns he ended up with and how much ammunition, but it was a large arsenal.
And how many? There was 70 people or something.
Something crazy.
It was crazy numbers. But one thing I think, and the media have to play a part in this, and we all do too, I'd love to see any situations like that. We never mention their name. Because I think some of these lunatics, well, you're not paying attention to me. Look, you will now. I'll be on the front page of the paper. Just play the victims' names. Talk about the victims, not talk about the offender. That might be a way of.
Do you think just a blanket ban on mentioning who this is? Because people, they then want to know more, I feel.
Yeah.
Like that would be my concern, is it's like, well, they're not telling us who it is. It's this guy, and here's his photo, and they share it.
You're right. So you'd have to give a description, but let's not be the Martin Bryant, like that type of thing. So a name that we're all familiar with. Let's take that away. So it could be that weird dude that was down living in Tasmania, and he did this, did that, but not his name. So take that out of play.
Yeah, and I understand where you're going with that, because it is, a lot of these people have nothing to live for, or they are severely depressed people. They're sad. They want to have an impact somewhere, and they see their only impact being as being, remembered as a horrible person, but they are remembered nonetheless.
Yeah.
And to remove that, maybe that takes a bit of power away from it.
Take it away. So, we'll never stop it completely, but, minimise it as much as we can.
And you can't. Crazy is synonymous with humans.
Yeah.
Like there's always going to be a crazy human. If you're in Australia, there's 26 million people, or 1 in a million chance happens 26 times a day, let's say.
Yeah.
There's going to be just insane people. And we've seen it with people running down the street and attacking people and, assaulting people with Martin Bryant. And I think a lot of listeners may not know the Martin Bryant story, but basically a mass shooting in Port Arthur in Tasmania. And that was the reaction was the Australian government basically took guns off people and made it very, very hard.
Made it very, very hard
to get a firearm. And I mean, you think to yourself, how many more people in Australia would have committed suicide if guns were available to everyone? Because that's the big one in America too that people don't really talk about is how many people commit suicide via a firearm, because it's quick. It's
again, and it puts that idea in people's heads.
I could end it so quickly because I've got a gun there.
Yeah, because it's a weapon that's going to take your life. So I think that's that comes into play as well. And we've had a lot of suicides with police, and most of the ones I think of, they're all been with guns. That ones I've attended, they're being gun related. So it's there. You're thinking, well, okay, that's to kill. I want to take my life. So there's concerns there.
Yeah, mate. I want people to go out and get your book because it's insane to think about this guy who you've seen in the media, and you've seen that he's in courtrooms and all this type of stuff. But you're a great storyteller. And that's what people, until they read the book, until they see the show, they don't understand. And that is why you should go and check out Gary's book right now, which is available at
all best-selling bookstores.
All best-selling bookstores. It will be number one in Australia. That's what we need to get to.
It's coming out in September, I think. Father's Day. Good Father's Day.
It's a great Father's Day
there
present.
You go.
Now, can I ask you this? Are you happy to stick around for an extra 15 minutes for the Patreon exclusive content? We have this section of the show called the sealed section, where we delve into things a little bit deeper. We talk about things that we probably shouldn't talk about.
I can keep my clothes on.
Well, mate, if there's the 40-year-old women watching this, Gary's going to join OnlyFans on the sealed section. All right, so let's go over to the sealed section right now on Patreon. Go and check it out. It costs $1 a month. Go and support the podcast. But if you don't want to do that, go and buy Gary's book as well. Badness. It's available in all good bookstores and bad bookstores. Do bookstores even exist anymore? Can you get it on Amazon?
You probably could.
Go and buy it. All right? I'll put a link to it somewhere. Anywhere. Patreon right now.
I hear him chat to the noise, move